Hey, what's up? Welcome back to another happy hour with Kat. How you guys feeling today? Sound okay? Before I start talking to myself again? I think it's okay based on my end. So, how's everybody doing? Master Chief, the What Ups, Crypto Otis, Joel Webster, Kanos for Life, Marcella, welcome in. Welcome, everybody. How's everybody feeling with the markets? We're up a little bit today, obviously, but we got crushed pretty hard the last couple days because of some crazy stuff that's going on, which we'll talk about in a second. Go ahead and get your questions in, and we'll get to them in a little bit. And also let me know what you guys are drinking. Today I've got a mixture of pineapple juice and cranberry juice. No alcohol, but honestly, a little bit of rum or something inside of that would be amazing if I was on a beach. Somewhere tropical. Lexi, Rayleigh, Luke, welcome in. Welcome. Okay, so I want to know what your guys' take is on, are you team Elon or are you team Trump? Because I think they're breaking up right now, and it's sad because I thought they were so happy together. Clearly, the market reacted to that as well. And I'm also just kidding. You don't have to pick a side. I am personally side market just go up no matter what happens. Because I don't really care. I imagine a lot of you guys are as well. Don't care what happens. Just market finally go up. So, apparently, obviously you guys know that they're fighting right now, and whatever happened, it set the only reason we're going to talk about it is because it kind of set the markets down. Was it yesterday? And I believe it has something to do with Elon Musk getting some of his subsidies potentially taken away, and he's all mad. And now he's basically trying to out Donald Trump as being on the Epstein list, which may or may not be true. Who knows? But the fact that they're fighting nonetheless is causing some stir in the market. And I've got two ways to look at this. I always look at everything that happens in kind of a bubble of why this could be happening, and could it be happening because of something they want happening, want to happen in the markets. It wouldn't surprise me if this is all... Well, first of all, it wouldn't surprise me if this is real, right? And they really are fighting over something. And they really are upset with each other. But... And yeah, Rayleigh's throwing a billionaire temper tantrum. Yeah. They're both potentially throwing temper tantrums. But what if this was all a setup, and they're still best friends, and all of these attempts that Donald Trump is trying to do to crash the market so that he can force, Jerome Powell's hand to finally cut rates and in quantitative tightening. What if this is just another kind of circus act in order to try and potentially do something to that effect? They know something like this is going to have an effect on the markets, and they need some pain in the markets in order for Jerome to finally start to cut rates and come to his senses. And part of me wonders if that is what this is. It's just theater when it's all said and done. I don't know that, obviously. I'm just taking a guess and thinking that could be one of the possibilities that's going on. But when it's all said and done, basically, this type of stuff, maybe not, arguments like this, but reasons for the markets to go down happens all the time. You can find your own reasoning for it, whether it be tariffs, whether it be, anything basically negative can set the markets down, especially in a time period like we are now. And so it's one of those things that's going to blow over. I guarantee you, a few months from now, people probably forget this even happened, and everything will be, back to normal, and something else will probably be at the center of attention at that point. And so I just wouldn't worry about it, I guess. Sitting here worrying about every single red candle, you're going to stress yourself out enough where you're probably going to die at a younger age. And we just have to wait for the green candles. It's, if we get that altcoin season that we're all waiting for, which I still think we're going to get, then none of this is going to matter, right? This is all just theater up until that point. And whether this was planned or not, who knows, who cares? When it's all said and done, we're just waiting for the ride to start. And that's all we can do. So, on more positive news, though, if I pull up the internet here, and by the way, the internet is back to regular settings and not mirrored this time around. But if we look at CoinMarketCap and the most bullish sentiment, Caspa is number 1 on that list today. Okay? Let's see if I can blow this up bigger so you guys can see it. But you can see Caspa right here at number 1 on the most bullish cryptos in the market today. And it's got a 90.3% bullish sentiment. And it's up 4.25% today. And then Jasmy, Pi, HBAR, some of the bigger caps here, are also up in the bullish sentiment. But notably, Caspa is number 1. And so there's something to be said for that, right? Because they're taking the sentiment of the whole entire market, and Caspa is number 1. It's good news, right? It's good news. Even though it doesn't feel like it, sentiment in general is down right now in the whole entire market. But Caspa apparently is up in a lot of people's minds. And then if we come over here and we look at wallet number 2, which we've talked about a lot, other people have obviously talked about it a lot too, is still buying Caspa. Huge whale, still buying Caspa. And I want to reiterate this to you guys. If you were a major player in the crypto market and you have What does this wallet hold? 751 million Caspa at a 63 million dollars. Yeah, so 751 million Caspa at a price of, or a value of $63.8 million. Would you continue to buy this much on almost a daily basis, right? On the 4th, which was 2 days ago, they bought another almost 5 million Caspa at $400,500. Would you continue to buy that much Caspa or crypto in general if you thought there was a bear market in the immediate future, right? Before we get this blow off top for altcoins? You have to ask yourself that. Somebody that's buying this much, which we think is probably an exchange, although I outed myself on X the other day and said it was me. I'm going to backtrack on that so that nobody robs me. We think it's an exchange. We don't know which one. It could be Binance. Could be OKX. Could be Coinbase. But would they be buying this much at this point in time if they thought we are on the cusp of a bear market? If I was them and I had a little bit more knowledge into the market, and I knew that we were heading into a bear market, right, before we get a blow off top this year at some point, I would probably be holding off a little bit, right? And I'd be waiting, knowing that we're going to go into a bear market, till we hit the bottom, which is usually roughly a year after the blow off top, okay, or the top of the market. I would wait a year before I started buying again, because if that were the case, Caspa would be probably going down 80 to 90% from where it is right now. And why wouldn't I want to wait and buy it at that price rather than the 8 to 10 cents that we've been sitting at for a while here? It just makes, right? That makes sense logically. So you have to ask yourself that question. If this guy, wallet number 2, is very comfortable in buying a lot of Caspa right now, then why aren't we comfortable buying a lot of Caspa right now, right? I always say, swim with the whales and you will succeed, right? You buy when they're buying, which looks like it's right now, and you sell roughly when they sell. And that's how you're going to make money. It's that simple. Although, it probably is a little bit more easier said than done, because it's hard to sell and sometimes it's hard to buy. Although I think buying is easier than selling. Sounds like it should be opposite, right? But it's not, because you become very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very comfortable and very, you kind of gain sentimental value to your bags that you're holding for so long that selling is actually harder than buying. And those of you who have not been through a cycle yet will realize that at some point this year, hopefully. Because hopefully we're going to get to sell Caspa and any other crypto you're holding at a much higher price than it is right now. Like at least a 10x, hopefully. Okay. Also, let me ask you guys, are you interested in a video on how to use the testnet for Caspa and kind of practice and get to see what it looks like behind the scenes. Are you guys interested in a video like that? Because I was planning on making one, I think, in the near future. So let me know. Also, did you guys see today that KuCoin, I think it was today, KuCoin actually listed a Caspa USDC pair. I think before, kind of like Kraken right now, where it was just the USD pair, where all you could do is buy it and sell it into USD, right? Now we've got the USDC pair on KuCoin, which allows for like legitimate trading and I would imagine more volume because more people use or a lot of people use USDC. It would have been better for the USDT pair because that's the most popular stablecoin, but we'll take the USDC for the time being. All right, let's answer some questions, guys. Get your questions in. Yeah, buddy, holding strong. 285k coins. That's a solid bag. Master Chief. Solid bag. I remember back in the day where, this is before I was on YouTube, but I was listening to other YouTubers and everybody was saying 100,000 Caspa is what you should strive for, right? And then now everybody's saying more and more and more and more and more. The What Ups, welcome back. Another fine evening of work, watching the show. Always a pleasure to tune in, my guy. Always a pleasure to have you tuned in. I appreciate you coming back and hanging out on the Friday. Crypto Otis, Voodoo Ranger, I don't know who that is. And Joe Webster is replying to that. Maybe I live under a rock. But I don't know who the Voodoo Ranger is. Somebody let me know. Kanos Life, what's up, man? May everyone in Caspa be blessed. Yes, may Caspa be blessed with higher prices, and may everybody who holds Caspa be blessed now and with higher prices later. Luke, my Caspa ASICs are still on. So are mine. Although I only have one, and it's a KS0, one of the originals. But it's still on, it's still going, it barely makes any Caspa. But I wonder, like, back in the day when Bitcoin first started and people were mining Bitcoin, you were getting, probably 10 Bitcoin a day in the early days with a lot of people. Maybe even more than that at the very, very, very beginning. But, it was worth, cents. And like 10 Bitcoin people were probably scoffing at because it wasn't worth much of anything. And now, it's $100,000 a coin. So you wonder if, Caspa, I'm not saying it's going to be $100,000 a coin, but at some point in time is the small amount of Caspa that I'm mining right now on that ASIC going to look like I was lucky. People are going to tell me I was lucky, and I was like, no, just ahead of the curve. One day, when Caspa's price is much higher, probably next cycle, always wonder, just leave them on, leave them running, and at some point, it's all going to be worthwhile. We're just in a rut right now. But you got to remember, this happens every cycle, where there's always a part of the cycle right before things get crazy where people will claim altcoins are dead. It happens every single time. And that's exactly what's happening right now. On cue, right? Just like last cycle, just like the cycle before. Altcoins are dead. They're never going to come back. The cycle's over. Fear. And then we look back on it and we've had a blow off top in an altcoin season every single cycle. Right? And so I wonder why this time would be different. Okay? Last cycle there was things that everybody said this cycle is different, and it ended up doing the exact same thing. This cycle, people are saying, well, the institutions are in it now, and they don't like altcoins, and blah, blah. They're finding any excuse possible to say that altcoins are dead again, and I would bet that we look back, once we're into 2026, look back at the end of this year, and we're like, yep, everybody was scared for no reason. Everything happened exactly like it did in previous cycles. Wouldn't surprise me at all if that's what we get. And then next cycle, things are going to happen the same way, where we're going to have a period of time where Bitcoin dominance is going up. Altcoins are getting crushed on their Bitcoin pairs. Everybody's going to say altcoins are dead. And then we probably have another blow off top next cycle. It just continues to happen. But if it was as easy as, there is no stress, there is no biting your fingernails, there is no fear, then everybody would do it, and too many people would make money, and this wouldn't be successful for the small percentage of people who understand what's going on. They don't want everybody to get rich. They want themselves and a very small percentage of other people, because that's just the collateral damage with them getting rich. And we are that collateral damage in their minds. The small percentage that are going to wait it out, hold it out, right? And get rewarded in the end. Hi, what's up? I think we will top like every cycle, Q4. Only 2021 was an exception because money printing. But again, we had November 2021 top. Yeah, well, money printing started in 2020 last cycle. So that's why it seems different, because they were printing money for a lot longer. And so altcoins seem like they had a longer cycle than they're going to this cycle. But remember, in the 2017 cycle, altcoins didn't start running until I think November of 2017. And so it was a super late cycle, and I imagine that everybody back then was saying the same thing, right? Although there really wasn't like a crypto structure of a 4-year cycle quite yet, because it was still too new. But it ended up happening, nonetheless. And I agree with you. I think that Q4 this year, that even though it doesn't seem like it right now, we're probably going to end up getting alt season, and we're probably going to end up having a blow off top just like we do every single cycle. Unless some unforeseen crazy stuff happens, which I guess is always a possibility, but I just think about the people who are in power, right? They want to make money. And I imagine they're going to want their very quick blow off top where they can sell all of their stuff for a lot more than they bought it for and then reset and start again a year later. Because they're in charge of everything. There's market makers, and they don't want to just have a permanent bear market for years upon years upon years upon years. And so I think they're going to make it happen for themselves, and we just got to be on board. Luke is drinking a Waterloo. Lexi's drinking beer. Marcelo, is Caspa going to go up? Win all-time high? Well, let me pull out my crystal ball here. If I can find it. I don't have one, actually. That being said, Caspa is going to go up, and it will go back to its all-time high, and it will go higher than its all-time high of 20 cents. The win is the question. I don't know. Right now, it seems like they are going to cut rates in September. At least that's what the odds are right now. So if I were to guess, I would say sometime around September is when we are going to actually start really going up. Kanos is Team Elon. Main event, what are we drinking tonight? Jen, this is all news or old news. I don't know what you meant there. Everyone already knew Trump was on that list. It wouldn't surprise me, to be honest. There are photos of him like hanging out with him back in the day, so it would not surprise me one bit. There's a lot of people that are probably on that list, and there's probably a reason why it has not been made public yet by last administration or this administration. Because some of the names on there would probably shock people, or maybe not shock people. Jin, they're working together. It's in the plan, tinfoil hat. So that is actually exactly what I was talking about earlier. That honestly wouldn't surprise me if they're just doing this in order to, well, who knows what their end goal is, but I always look at it in the market, standpoint, from a market standpoint, and I know that Donald Trump wants rates cut like yesterday, and Jerome Powell won't do it, and so maybe they're coming together and trying to figure out some sort of plan to crash markets and get him to actually cut rates. But again, it could be something other than markets as well. I just always have the vision of they're doing this for market purposes, and I could be wrong. Master Chief, the market makers are shaking out the paper hands. If anyone knew the exact times the market would pump, we'd all be millionaires. Not everyone can win. Exactly what I just said. Exactly. To a T. That's 100% what's going on. And like I said, they know there's going to be collateral damage with some people making millions of dollars, right? And that's going to come with the territory. But they want the least amount of people possible to become rich because they want it all for themselves. And that's exactly what they're doing right now. And it plays out over such a long period of time where people just lose hope, right? And they do that on purpose. They understand that the sentiment and the makeup of the average human cannot take this. And they will get frustrated, they will get mad, they will get scared, and they will sell their investments. Most people will do that. And the small percentage of us in this chat who hold on and just weather the storm, I guess is the best way of saying it, will come out on top when it's all said and done. Lexi, we told prediction for Caspa $2 to $3, then $1, then 70 cents, now 50 cents. Where we will go to 20 cents last all-time high. I don't know that I completely understand that question. I don't know who's saying $2 to $3 and then $1 and then 70 cents and then 50 cents, because it's definitely not me. I still think that we get I think a $2 to $3 Caspa is very reasonable, and I think that I would say $1 might be the minimum. So like between $1 and $3 would be where I would say we would land, depending on what kind of altcoin season we get. I don't know what the 70 or 50 cents thing means, but as far as getting back up to the 20 cents where the last all-time high was, again, I answered that a few minutes ago. I think if rates are going to be cut in September, it's probably going to be around September. Damn, what happened now? I did notice the market is, or I didn't know. The market is down bad right now. Yeah, it is. Where are we? But most of the damage happened yesterday. We're actually back up a little bit today. Slightly. And the market dump was on the Elon and Donald Trump news, as they are potentially breaking up. Or maybe not. Who knows? We still don't know. They could come out tomorrow and be like, oh, we made peace. Everything's fine. And they'll kiss and make up. I don't know. $0.20 all-time high, probably. At least it's not dumping anymore right now. Yeah, it's pumping a little bit. But we're not going to see 20 cents for a little while still, I don't think. Unless there's an emergency rate cut before September. And then we can potentially see it faster. But I always want to bring everybody's attention back to the 2017 cycle. Because I'm going to reiterate again that altcoins were at their bottoms in November of 2017. And so they only needed November, December, and like a week or two in January to hit their all-time highs. And that could easily happen again. And the funny thing about that is that Donald Trump was the president back then as well. And so there's some similarities that maybe that's what we're going to see again this time around. Obviously, we don't know for a fact, but the similarities are there, and we're kind of on track potentially to have that happen again. Especially if they, rate cut in September, then that's basically right on track with what happened. I don't know when. I don't know what monetary policy was like in 2017, but at least time frame wise of when we could start, getting that altcoin cycle is right on par with what happened in 2017. So it's very similar. What do you guys think the all-time high is going to be for Caspa? And when the market's going to top? I've told you what I think. What do you guys think? Do you think I'm pretty close or reasonable, or do you think I'm way off? The cycle is crazy as hell. We must have balls. Yeah. And every cycle is actually crazy in its own way, but this one is just long. Right? The amount of pain for as long as we've had to endure is pretty crazy when you really think about it. But all that's going to do is, give you battle wounds and some scars, and literally for next cycle, you are just going to be hardened to the core, and it's going to get easier because you're going to be like, oh yeah, we saw this before, to some extent. I would imagine next cycle is not going to be exactly like this cycle, but it's going to have periods where, we're going to see the same stuff, and you're going to be like, oh, I remember that from last cycle. Yeah, we're fine. We'll come out of this. And you just get used to things over time because you've just seen everything. And you've been battle tested to the extreme. Also, I forgot, I wanted to tell you guys, so I thought about selling my Nacho tokens because of Shy leaving the project, right? And obviously Nacho is Shy's cat. And so I was thinking in my mind that, it's not even relevant to have somebody's cat, as a project on the Caspa chain when he's not even there anymore. But I've decided to hold on to it. It's not really that much money, and I don't feel like there's a need to move it. And maybe, it has that nostalgia scenario with it. And so I just wanted to be transparent with that I actually am going to keep holding on my Nacho just because there's no reason to sell it at this point. For those of you that I had that discourse with in one of my comment sections of one of my last videos, there was some back and forth about whether we should or shouldn't sell, and I thought about it for a minute and then just decided not to, so. Larry, I did sell 10% of my Caspa bag to hold in cash. I truly believe we could be going back to 6 or 7 cents. Then I will buy back when it's so cheap. It's a possibility, for sure. Because, let me see if I can pull this up real quick without taking too much time. It probably didn't save because it might have. All of my stuff got reset when I got my new computer. Total 3 Bitcoin. Yeah, it didn't save. I'll pull it up at a different point. But if we look at the altcoin market on its, like the entirety of the altcoin market on its Bitcoin pairs, it still in theory has some downside before we go up again. And if the entire altcoin market does go down more on its Bitcoin pairs, then there's a chance Caspa does go back down to that 6 cent range, maybe even 5 cent range potentially. It kind of just depends. But also, Caspa could be the outlier and not go down as much too, and maybe the low caps and the meme coins and all that kind of stuff, all that other crap that's just filtrated into this space is what takes the altcoin market down. And some of the better projects like Caspa don't go down as much. So we kind of just have to wait and see there. But if that works out for you, then that would be awesome. I'm always scared to sell a portion of my bag because as soon as I do, I have the luck where as soon as I do that, we're going to rip up to 20 cents again just because I sold, and then I'm going to be pissed off. So I usually just buy and hold until we get that blow off top at the end of the cycle. I do sell some stuff though, like if I buy something in the bear market and it does, a 20 to 50x, then I will sell that type of stuff. Which are short-term projects that I invest in the bear market. But a project like Caspa, as soon as I sell, it's going to rip to the upside, and it's just going to piss me off. Riley, did you see the K-Force post about everyone buying $5 of CAS at the same time on Sunday? I did not. Although, maybe I did, because that does sound kind of familiar. But maybe I didn't, What was the reasoning behind it? Remind me. Is it just to get a little green candle? Or maybe a big green candle? I don't know. Show how strong the community is. I feel like I might have seen that, though, because that does kind of ring a bell. But I don't remember the reasoning behind it. Let's be honest, why hasn't Caspa caught on yet? Probably because, well, I would argue that it kind of has caught on because without any marketing, or marketing budget, I should say, there are technically people out there that market it, kind of like myself. It's done very well. If we look at what it's done since its inception in 2022, without any marketing, where is Caspa? It's done. If we come down here and look at this number down here, I don't know if you guys can see that. It might be small on your screen, but it's done almost a 50,000% gain since its inception. And that's a lot. I would argue the community is huge and has gotten even bigger over the 3 years ago time frame. And Kraken took notice. Binance has opened up a mining farm for Caspa and is listed at futures. Coinbase is listed at futures. I think it's a matter of time when the markets turn around that both will list spot. It's on a ton of exchanges, basically every exchange but the big tier ones, except for Kraken, obviously. So, I mean, I would argue that it has caught on, but it hasn't caught on to where it's like crazy mainstream yet. And I think that will happen once the big tier ones actually list it. Also, you got to remember that we don't have smart contracts yet, although they're very close and imminent. And that will also bring new developers, new users into the ecosystem to, through DeFi and, other meme coins and utility coins and all that kind of stuff. And so we're on the verge, I believe, of I guess you could say the next step of adoption and catching on, if you will. I think it's right around the corner before we hit that next echelon of adoption. We think Caspa is golden, but it really hasn't done shit. Why? Well, I just told you it has. It's up 50,000% since its inception with no marketing team or budget or anything. It's just the community and natural growth. And 50,000% is a huge number. So I would push back on that and say that it has done shit. But if you just recently got into it, you haven't seen any of that, so I could understand how some people are under the impression that it hasn't done anything because their bags haven't grown all that much. Okay, Voodoo Ranger. That makes sense. It's an IPA. I gotcha. I actually have heard of that, but my mind frame was in crypto, and I was thinking, what is Voodoo Ranger in regards to crypto? And obviously, that's why I didn't know what you were talking about. That's it? We're relying on a prayer? Caspa be blessed? I have no idea why you think what I just said was asking for a prayer. Smart contracts are coming out literally within the next month. And that's going to bring new users, new developers into the ecosystem. And tier 1 exchanges, Binance and Coinbase, have never listed a project for futures trading and then not listed it for spot trading in the past. And so it's a matter of time before, I would imagine, based on history, that they're going to list Caspa spot on their exchanges. And I've said this before, that they are businesses. Exchanges are businesses. And if you're running a business, and you know that the market sentiment is not good right now, would you want to list a project like Caspa right now when you know there could be some more downside before we go up? Or would you rather wait until market sentiment changes, right? And we are cutting rates, we are injecting more liquidity into the markets as a whole, via macro stuff, and then list the project so that your return on investment is immediate, where the price is just going to shoot up. And that is my take on why they haven't listed yet, because they're waiting for the market sentiment to turn around to the positive again. And if that doesn't happen and I'm completely wrong, come back at me in the comment section early next year. And I will walk out with my tail between my legs and say I was wrong. But I still think that's going to happen. So I don't think it's a prayer. I think we're basing it off of history. And, thinking logically about the situation. Chirp, appreciate this $1.99 super chat. Thanks for your content, brother. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for the support. Much appreciated. Caspa Bull, are you bullish on Nacho? I kind of just went over that. I don't know that I am as bullish as I used to be, because Shy has now left the project, and that was his cat. It's going to do one of two things. It's either going to pump off of sentiment, right, and nostalgia because of Shy and that he used to work for the company, or I guess it's not really a company. He used to work for the project in one fashion or another, or it's going to completely die because he's not with the project anymore. And I think it's going to be one of those two things. I have opted to just hold on to Nacho because I don't really have that much money into it anyways, and I'm just going to hope for the best on that. That it's some sort of nostalgia. And I know the team is really good too. And that plays a big part in it as well because they're very active. And I would imagine that they're going to see this through, hopefully. And, try and make the best out of the situation. So, I guess I'm not as bullish as I used to be, but I'm also not 100% bearish either. I'm kind of in the middle. Sorry, my nose itches, guys. Probably allergic to cats because we're talking about them, and Bacon is around here somewhere. I don't know where. I think he's sleeping under my desk. Unfortunately, KRC20 has been frozen. What does frozen mean? Like you can't trade them anymore? If that's true, that's interesting news. Or you just mean the prices aren't moving? Well, that's the question. Is there a reward in the end? Yeah, there is. I think there's going to be a reward in the end this cycle, and I think that if you hold on, I don't recommend holding your whole bag through the bear market, but I think Caspa is going to be a multi-cycle coin, and I think that you're going to have a reward at the end of next cycle as well, and potentially the cycle after that. And I think it's going to cement itself into the top 10 at some point and just be a mainstay and a staple there. Kind of like Ethereum is, and, say what you want about XRP, but it stays up there. I think it's going to... Solana may or may not stay up there because Solana gets a lot of usage, but I think it's going to cement itself up in there with those projects. Maybe not this cycle, but if they continue to grow and they continue to develop and do the things behind the scenes that they say they're going to do, then I think next cycle it has a potential to, get into that top 5 or 10 and potentially stay there. What are your thoughts on the supposed Caspa and Circle meeting? I think it's a good thing for sure. It's just a meeting, so obviously, we don't know if anything's going to come out of it, but it's a meeting nonetheless, right? It's better than no meeting. And I think it will be extremely bullish for Caspa if USDC and then USDT as well both get implemented on the Caspa network, because those are the top two stable coins, and it will allow a lot more potential users to come on to the Caspa network because they're familiar and they trust USDC, USDT. And that just gives them their trading pairs that they want when they're trading or, messing around in DeFi or whatever it might be. But I think that's a must. And so I would be extremely excited if this meeting goes well and USDC implements their stablecoin on the Caspa network. And by the way, go back and watch my stablecoin video from a few days ago, because it gives kind of the rough numbers of what kind of money is being sloshed around in that stablecoin market, in crypto as a whole. And it is a lot of money, and if Caspa can get just a fraction of that, we would be in great shape. Especially since, I make the comparison to Tron in that video because it has the most stablecoin transactions on it right now. But Tron's gas fees are like $3 because I use it a lot. And Caspa's gas fees would be a fraction of a cent. And Caspa's decentralized, whereas Tron is centralized and has kind of a shady leader behind the project. Like, there's a lot of negatives to Tron and a positives to Caspa if they can infiltrate some of that usage and transactions from the market over to their block DAG. It would be huge. Larry, my fellow crypto buddies are laughing at me now for being a Caspa maxi for the past 2 years. Well, that's probably because they've been in... well, they wouldn't have been laughing at you in 2023 or 2022. And they're probably only laughing now because Caspa has kind of been in a consolidation zone for a while now. And they might be, potentially in some meme coins that have pumped opposite of the market, or, Hyperliquid or Sui or something like that. Which, by the way, if we go back to that sentiment list, wherever that went, hold on a second. Do you guys remember how popular and exciting Hyperliquid was for a while? Layer 1, supposed to be super fast, probably extremely centralized. Where is that? I can't remember how I got into that. Anyways. Is it community sentiment? Yeah, it is. Oh, and speaking of that, Render just took Caspa for the #1 spot at a 96.6% bullish sentiment rate. But if you look over here, Hyperliquid is the number 6th most bearish sentiment coin right now, which says something, because maybe the hype of Hyperliquid is on its way down. I was seeing if Sui was over here, but it's not, because of that. Sui is actually number 7 in the most bullish sentiment still, which tells you it's not going away. I told you guys that the that hack that happened on one of its dexes is not going to affect it at all. It's going to have one of the better runs this cycle, in my opinion. And if there was 3 coins that I would recommend everybody have in their portfolio, can you guys guess what 3 coins that would be? You can probably guess 2 of them, but what's the third? It'll hit an all-time high in the fall, yeah. What, September is fall, or is that winter? September? I don't even know, man. I'm not even going to think about that right now. I think that's fall, roughly. Yeah, Banana Republic. Larry, if you were buying CAS early 2023, you're chilling right now. Yeah, exactly. And that's why I said that his crypto buddies would not be laughing at him if we were sitting in 2023 right now, because Caspa was just railing to the upside, counter to everything else in the market. It was the easiest buy that I've seen in crypto for a very long time back then. Cass has still been the best play overall, been my best play overall, especially when you consider the KRC20 investments. Yeah, and a lot of those KRC20s are still up. Don't quote me on this, but if you guys were in on the mints of those things, it's possible that you're still up on them, or at least some of them, because when they were being minted, they were dirt cheap. But I honestly don't know what the prices are right now, so don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. I haven't looked at my KRC20s in a long time. Nacho will be dead with Shai leaving the team. That's a possibility. Definitely a possibility. That was my first take on everything. It's... Yeah, I wouldn't frown upon anybody who wants to sell their Nacho at this point. If I had a lot of it, I would de-risk for sure. Just in case. Because like I said, it might, I would say it's 50-50 at best that Nacho will survive off of nostalgia. But you do have to look at the team, too. The team is very active. So that's another thing you have to consider. A lot of people are asking why don't they rebrand? But, what are they going to rebrand to? Nacho is a cat, and it's the cat of Shai. How do you rebrand that? Do you change the name and the logo and, be another cat now? You can't do that. Do you change it to a plate of nachos? What are you going to change it to? It just is going to have to run and live on as Shai's cat on the Caspa ecosystem, and you just hope for the best that nostalgia is going to push it upwards, which may or may not happen. Mila, late to the show. Hello. But I'm happy to be here. I'm happy you're here too, Mila. Welcome back. It's always a pleasure. Go figure, 2 teenage girls, Elon, Donald Trump, fight on the parking lot. Yeah. Yeah, that's basically what it looks like right now. And if it's not planned and it's a real fight and they're airing it out on Twitter, it's probably other world leaders laughing at us right now. Sitting down with popcorn in front of the TV like it's a movie. Paul, do you still think the market will peak by the end of the year? Also, do you think CAS can break all-time high before the possible September rate cut? I do think the market is probably going to peak in Q4 like it always does. Unless something crazy happens, then, we'll deal with it at that point. But we still have, I know it doesn't seem like it, but we still have time. And I'll reiterate, 2017, altcoins didn't start pumping. They were at their bottoms in November. And then they had their run, November, December, and a week or two in January. And the crazy thing there, too, is Donald Trump was the president back then as well. And so there's a lot of similarities, and maybe that's what we get this time. I do still think it's going to peak, and it is possible that we can break the all-time high before the September rate cut, and there's 2 ways that'll happen. Either we get a rate cut sooner because something happens and something breaks and there's an emergency rate cut. That would be a way that would probably happen. Or people are pricing things in before the rate cut, and we get a big altcoin push to the upside on the news that we're for sure getting a rate cut in September. Maybe we see altcoins, do things ahead of time. But usually when the rate cuts happen, we do see that's usually around when the low is. Sometimes it's a little bit before, so that's where we could see it push higher up into the rate cuts. But a lot of times right around the Fed's cutting rates, we see a low in the market, because what that means is that things are broken, right? And they're cutting rates because the markets are sick, or the economy is sick, or something's sick. And so that's why we usually see kind of lows in the stock market or crypto market right around when the rate cuts happen. But this one, the fact that it's being projected out, maybe we see a low before that. I don't know. And then we kind of go up into the rate cuts, and hopefully just up from there. We'll have pullbacks, but hopefully the macro stuff gets better and we can just go up and have our blow off top. 70 cents by December. I would say that's very possible, and could be on the low end, but we don't know. For all I know, Caspa could top out at 60 or 70 cents, We're all just guessing. I can tell you what I think is going to happen, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to be right. All-time highs will be close to as high as it goes. It sucks, but I think that's the truth. Hang in there, guys, for the future. Do you really think that if we have an altcoin season, that Caspa is going to do a 2x by the end of the year? Because that's basically what you're saying. I think that is extremely lowballing. If a lot of bigger projects, like XRP and Cardano and Solana and all those guys are projected to do a 5 or 10x from here, based on previous cycles, then why would Caspa only do a 2x with a lower market cap and potential tier 1 listings and smart contracts? That doesn't seem right. But I understand the sentiment right now is not good, and that's probably why it never seems like Caspa will do anything ever again in its life. But I'm here to tell you it will. Given the fact that CAS is a slow organic growth in all adoptions and advances, I think it could have... Oh, man, I'm butchering this. I think it could have not night time this year to get... think it could have not enough time this year to get to $3. I think $1.50 will be more realistic. It could be. I'm just thinking about like market caps, and I always like to... I understand Cardano is not the same project, but Cardano did not have smart contracts, and it was a promise of smart contracts, and it still got to $3. Although I think smart contracts may have come out right before the top of the market, but it had already done a lot of his big moves on the promise of smart contracts. And so I don't know. if we get an alt season, it's hard for me to think that Caspa can't do the same thing. But who knows? Especially if they get the tier 1 listings and it's a surprise tier 1 listing like Coinbase, who a lot of people actually think probably won't list. I think that's going to do wonders for the price. But we'll see. You know, time will tell. I've learned that I should have taken profits with newer coins in price discovery. Could have bought back with twice the amount on the pullback. Yeah, that's the hard part, because most of the time, I mean, like right now in the cycle, it's a little risky because we're getting so close. No, we're in the post-halving year. But like if you're in the bear market and you get a massive pump on a new coin that's in price discovery, it is probably a very good idea to take profits on that. Because like we're seeing now, right, when Caspa was in price discovery way back in 2022 and then 2023, we've pulled back all the way to what a lot of people were buying Caspa at before it went to all-time highs. And so if people would have taken profits at all-time highs, knowing we were still a year out from the post-halving year, knowing that altcoins will probably come back down a little bit, then yeah, you know, it's a good rule of thumb if you're early enough into the projects. Do you know what caused the liquidity to flow into BTC and alts in 2017 cycle? I believe through 17 and 18 the feds were actually raising rates. It wasn't until 19 that they cut rates. I don't actually know that. I would have assumed that they were easing at that point based on the markets running, but maybe they weren't. I didn't really look into that. I just saw that altcoins, you know, were at their lows in November and then started running in that cycle. I didn't look at what the macro looked like, but I was just looking at the comparison of where altcoins are now and then. So if that's the truth, then I don't know exactly what would have driven the liquidity. I might actually go back and look at that, because that's an interesting scenario. Because if rates were going up at that time, then who's to say that rates need to be cut in order to have a blow off top, right? If it happened before. But nonetheless, it would still be nice to get better monetary policy so that we can guarantee some good money flow back into the markets. All right, guys. We're at about an hour and 15 minutes, so I'm going to take off for the day. I appreciate everybody being here. We'll see you guys next Friday. Again, I'll have some more videos up this week, so make sure you check those out. And come back next Friday and join me for another happy hour. Love you all. In the meantime, continue to pack your damn bags before it's too late. See you in the next video. Peace out.